Given all this sunshine that we have, I guess that we are always blessed with, it's hard to think about places where the weather isn't perfect. But believe me, in other parts of the country, there is this thing called winter. And around this time of year, as the fall starts to fade and the leaves blow away, and the branches that once clung unto them tightly begin to loosen their collective grip, the days grow shorter and colder, and yet another cycle in the drama of life and death takes place. And so it is with the church year. As the liturgical year winds down, the Gospels for these next 4 weeks address our deepest fears and offer our most profound hope. Today, Jesus speaks of a God as a God of the living, who promises that the ones who will rise will be God's children. Next week, the readings speak of the persecutions that will precede the return of the Son of Man, with a promise to Jesus' disciples that not a hair on your head will be destroyed. The feast of Christ the King, after that, shows Jesus offering salvation and paradise at the moment of his death. And then it's the first Sunday of Advent, which turns again to preparation for the return of the Son of Man. That's the next 4 weeks. These Sundays sometimes evoke a profound time of retrospection as they invite us to look at the end of life. But a thread winding through the tapestry of these readings is the victory over death and the promise of unending life. In today's gospel, the Sadducees, those who accepted the authority of the Torah alone and did not believe in the resurrection of the dead, tried to trap Jesus over the meaning of Scripture. They're playing games with Jesus, and they offer an absurd case: 7 brothers for 1 bride, and they crassly ask whose wife she shall be at the resurrection. But Jesus also knows his Scripture well. He contrasts their understanding with a true understanding of resurrection. And then he cites one of the most important texts for all of the Jews, the revelation of God to Moses, that God is a God of the living, not of the dead. Jesus, in effect, says that true interpretation of Scripture depends on having the proper perspective and understanding of the nature of God. Important in this gospel is the contrast between the children of this age and the children of God who will rise. Because throughout his gospel, Luke characterizes the children of this age as being concerned with status and honor, relationships of debt, and reciprocity, while the children of God are those marked by mercy, generosity, and love of enemies. So when Jesus says that the children of this age neither marry nor are given in marriage, he's not advocating universal celibacy. He's countering the materialistic and pragmatic view of the Sadducees, that the wife is handed from brother to brother to brother simply to assure male honor. The gospel affirms the victory of God and God's love over the power of death. That victory is evoked very dramatically in the first reading, featuring the excerpt from the martyrdom of the 7 brothers during the persecution that came before the Maccabean revolt. Each of the brothers, urged on by their mother, affirms their fidelity in the law and trusts in the resurrection before they face unspeakable torture and eventually death. And the 4th brother we hear today shouts out in faith, quote, "It is my choice to die at the hands of man with a hope God gives of being raised by him," end quote. The fidelity and the victory of the Maccabean martyrs are recalled by our Jewish brothers and sisters at the Feast of Hanukkah. As we are confronted with daily images of senseless violence the world over, I think these seasonal readings, these next 4 weeks, offer us a message of hope. What we are being shown is that fidelity and trust in God offer a hope stronger than brutal power, whether it was in 165 BC or 30 years ago yesterday, as we commemorated the fall of the Berlin Wall, or today in 2019. The readings summon us to live as sons and daughters of God and of the resurrection. People who can follow the way of Jesus as it has unfolded throughout the readings of Luke this past liturgical year. It is a way that ends with Jesus on the cross, promising paradise. But it is a way that continues with us as the risen Jesus opens up the Scriptures and breaks the bread. Like the pilgrims on the way to Emmaus, we walk from the place of death and suffering to the experience of new life and joy in the resurrection. It's a great reminder to all of us, especially as we welcome another new member into the Christian community, to remember to put our trust in God, because that always keeps us humble, that keeps the right order of things, that keeps us faithful to the promises of God's covenant. And by doing this, we remember to treat each other with respect, love, and dignity, just as God treats us.